Boys and girls, it hasn't been an easy time for landlords the last couple of years, particularly since COVID. There's been lots of changes since COVID, even before for a landlord, and there could be some really good benefits for sticking it out. So stay tuned, and we're going to talk about slaying landlords, but the benefit of being in there in the long term. And I've just run out of my little thing and I've lost it.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, Mark. How are you going?
Good, bud. Good. So I thought
Great
we'd
today.
bring on a resident landlord of Novak, Mr. Michael Silic,
It's been an interesting
and
time for landlords.
the witnessing of you've been witnessing this over almost 10 years now.
Yes.
Of what's been happening in the landlord world.
Hmm.
First of all, most importantly, who won in the soccer overnight?
Well, it's being played at the moment, but Argentina are up 3-0 from when I last checked. So I'm going to say they've probably won it. It was Argentina versus Croatia, semi-finals.
Oh, so you couldn't watch
So,
it because of the show?
sorry? No, I watched the beginning of it. It started at 6 a.m.
Yeah, right. I
It's
reckon we've
almost
got to
at an
get it
end.
up at the office, hey?
I know, for
Now,
the final.
Michael, that's
Yes.
huge. That's huge. So with the life of a landlord, there's it's been really interesting, guys and girls out there. I want to show you something. This particular thing here that we've got now. This will explain a little bit about whatever we're going to talk about today. This has been the net result on the attitude of a landlord. So the things that we're talking about today is, I know people sometimes think of landlords as the fat cat landlord and let's be a landlord, but it hasn't particularly been an environment where it's been like that's been encouraging for a landlord to get into the market. So much so that this is some data that came out from realestate.com.au, and it shows you the life of an actual what landlords are doing with property in the marketplace at the moment. So the landlords that are buying is the black line over the last 10-year period, and the landlords that are disposing of the property of their properties is the red line.
That's incredible.
What do you? Mm.
That's actually incredible in terms of, and looking at that now, it's very, very apparent where the trend is going at the moment. The amount of investors exiting the market versus the amount of investors purchasing back into the market, and they're going completely opposite to each other. It's not like there's lots of people selling, but there's lots of investors buying as well. We're literally seeing a lot of investors, dropping out of the market. And that, from what I can see there, that was a trend well before all of COVID, interest rates going up. That's been a trend for many, many years.
And I know we've called today Slaying Landlords, but it's not really a popular thing for politicians to support necessarily, because generally landlords are the fat cats. They're the rare ones out there that are fortunate enough to own an investment property, and you don't really win votes by supporting. Necessarily win the votes by supporting the landlords.
Sure.
It's more for the people, where
Yeah.
you sit. But I think the first move towards this was an interest rate disparity that came out of the Royal Commission when they did all their investigations, and with banks and with government. And about that time, they decided to put the rates up for an investor, for a
Mm-hmm.
landlord, rather than an owner occupier, as much as 0.5% to 1%, which directly bit in to a landlord's income.
So they've tried to make it, I guess they want to appeal to the majority. And obviously the general consensus is the majority of people don't own investment properties. But it's interesting to see, and it was a stat that we saw before, and I think Mark will hopefully be able to bring it up now as well, that
I was
one...
hoping you'd ask me for that.
1 in 6 Australians own an investment property. And I'll be honest, when I saw that stat, it actually even shocked me as well. I knew it was somewhat common in terms of for people to own investment properties. But for 1 in 6 is a very, very high percentage, where I think the common misconception out there is only, like you said, the fat cats, the one-off rich person owns it, where if you're at a barbecue with 20 people, chances are 3 or 4 of those people owns an investment property.
Big number.
Huge.
So they've had to pay the high interest rate. Even before that, I think, and when Michael and I were talking about this off air, we're talking about the journey of a property manager, a career property manager, an educated property manager, a well-rounded property manager. They are built to protect the asset. They are being paid by the landlord, and their job's to protect the asset on behalf of the landlord. So we sort of started putting ourselves in the shoes of a property manager's day, and then we said, okay, what do these guys go through? And I think COVID was a good example, Michael, of a little bit more slaying of a property manager. Slaying of a landlord.
Well, I guess a bit of both, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, and it is tough in terms of course, when COVID hit, there was lots of, it was tough for a lot of people. And of course, what the government wanted to do was protect people as much as possible. And so what they did was they did a lot of, put a lot of things in place in terms of protection for tenants. Only 20,000 own 6 or more investment properties. Yeah, that's at the other end of the spectrum, Luke, when obviously someone owns a lot of investment properties. And what we found was there was a lot that came out to protect the tenants. There we go. Argentina just won. So for the poor landlords, and I think it's good in terms of protecting tenants. I think it's great in terms of the way that they were trying to make sure that people were able to keep a roof over their heads. But I personally feel like on the flip side, for a landlord, there wasn't as much protection in place, and it just seems to be like a double whammy. They missed out on rent during COVID lockdowns. Their interest rates are going up now. It just seems to be, and you can see it in that graph that we showed at the very beginning, it's making it harder and harder for these landlords to be able to hold on to their properties.
So, slaying of a property manager, where is the silver lining in the cloud? One other thing I'd like to actually, I'll show you the net result of what's starting to happen in the rental market. And this is over a very long period as well. So you're finding that this stock is just not available for tenants any longer. It's starting to dry stock up in the marketplace, so people are having to pay more. There was recent, I saw something recent in the news, if anyone missed it the last 2 days, a landlord cannot bid up their rental property, or a landlord's agent cannot bid up the rental property, so they can't, you cannot auction a rental property, but you can auction a sales property in residential. So I thought that was really anti-competitive. And I thought that was in the tenant's favour and not the landlord's favour. I won't comment on that any further, but just an observation from the outside. What do you?
And I think, and as I said before, I think it's a good thing when obviously these things are being put in place to protect tenants, because I think there should be that protection out there. But on the flip side, and this is, I think, the biggest misconception out there, people think that landlord and tenants are going against each other and they're not on the same side, and they're like, oh, what's good for the landlord is not going to be good for the tenant, and vice versa. They're actually all pulled together. What's good for one is actually going to be good for another for a lot of things, in terms of if you're going to absolutely crush some landlords, and we can see it now with landlords exiting the market, what it means is there's going to be less rental properties available, and that's what's pushing up rental prices a lot for a lot of renters at the moment as well. So what you'll find is if you're doing things that are going to benefit landlords as well, holistically, it actually improves tenants also, gives more options for tenants out there also. And I think everyone's sort of grouped in together with it.
Well, I think the trend is that's not life's been made harder for landlords over the last 10 years. I want to also draw our attention to, Michael, we talked off air about where rents have been, and I think there's got to be a fair game on this. Let's use DY as an example. And I like
Mhm.
using DY because there's more properties that for are in DY for sale, selling, and overall than in Sydney CBD.
Highly
There's
transactional.
more, right? It's a highly transactional suburb. There's actually more units in DY than there is Sydney CBD. I want to use DY as an example of how much rents have gone up. So while people get out their violin for landlords and say poor tenants or poor landlords or whatever you may in relation to rent, this is what rents have actually done. I want to show people what rents have actually done in a general suburb like DY in Sydney. I want to show you what the rents have done, and it's pretty incredible.
It shocked me.
Michael, you pegged it at you thought rents had gone up 60%,
Over the
and then I
past
went
10
back
years, I thought 60%.
over the past 10 years. So property prices for units haven't quite doubled in DY, have not quite doubled in DY over 10 years. But let's have a look what rents have done. You want to explain that?
So that graph
Can you say?
there is showing over the past 10 years, the median weekly asking rent for a property was, give or take, let's round it to $460 a week 10 years ago. And today it's about $580 a week. So you're talking about 25 to 30% increase over the period of 10 years. That's
So
not a huge amount.
Yeah, there was a good 5 years where it just absolutely flatlined that
2016
rental
to
market.
2021. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think if you want to know what rents have been doing across Sydney, DY is a good cross section of what rents have been doing across Sydney. They haven't been doing much at all. Up until only recently, they'd done about 20%, although property values had done 90 to 100%. Furthermore, if you look at what people are paying for a property today and the yield, the return back that a landlord's getting, they're getting around, what's that sitting at, 3%?
It's now sitting about 3%, just a smidge above.
Right. So if you're paying 5% interest rate and you're buying and you're getting a 3% return, then you're paying strata, water and council on top of that, not very attractive for a landlord.
You're negatively geared about 3% at the moment, I'd say. Your outgoings are about 6%. Your yield's about 3%.
So it's pretty interesting. What's Lisa got to say?
Landlords cannot be government housing. It's true as well in terms of, I guess, the whole purpose of a landlord is to profit. That's the reason why they do it. So as much as it provides accommodation, it is an investment for them as well. And there is a silver lining to all this also, guys, in terms of for a landlord, yes, it's been a tough slog, but on the flip side, the benefit that you get from it, and it's always been the biggest benefit, is in the capital growth. If you can stick it out through the tough times, through the tough cash flow, history shows you will make money in your capital growth, and that's where the big dollars are.
So who's helping the landlord with interest rate hikes?
So true. So with interest rate hikes, what we're finding is for a lot of or any homeowner, even if you're an owner occupier or an investor, a lot of people's repayments have pretty close to doubled, which is a substantial amount, 100%. Your repayments have increased as a round number. And then obviously, as we can see there, since interest rates have started going up, rents have maybe moved up 10% in the past year. So there's still a 90% gap in terms of that extra, and landlords have to cop that shortfall.
So, guys and girls, there it is today, the slaying of landlords. It's definitely been a road, a tough road for a landlord in the last 10 years, together with COVID, together with the disparity of interest rates. So a landlord is paying a different interest rate to an owner-occupier. That historically didn't happen for 30 years or ever. That's only a new thing that people have accustomed to. We hammer landlords more than we do owner-occupiers. Because they're riskier? No. Because they're supplying housing to people that need rental housing? It's not. I don't know. I don't get it. It's almost like a penalty rate that I'm seeing out there. What's Lisa got to say here? She's got a lot to say this morning.
I know. Wouldn't landlords just be asking higher rent now if they can't have a guide or offers over? Potentially. That's a very good point, Lisa. Now that landlords aren't able to advertise for offers over, you might find that rentals might actually take another jump again, because it's going to push landlords to go, well, if I can't sort of put it at a reasonable level and see if it builds, then I'm just going to try and ask for a bit more straight off the bat. So that's actually a very good point. It'll be interesting to see.
Look, I don't think there was much consultation to the industry. Like it definitely wasn't cooking in the marketplace. The conversation about what should we do as a government, coming to the industry and finding out and asking, like it just seems like there was no consideration there at all. One thing before I go that I want to show Michael. This is the investor life cycle. I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah.
But,
so guys, yeah. Do you want me to read that to everyone? So we've got,
please.
Yeah. So on the left we've got the net worth, and then on the baseline axis we've got age. So as obviously pretty straightforward, as you get older, your net worth grows. But during the different stages, ages of 20 to 35 is the accumulation stage. So it's pretty small there, but younger investors have more time in the market, so you can take more risks. And then 35 to 60 is the preparation stage, which is where you're at your peak earnings, greater capacity to save and invest. And then your retirement stage, which is when you focus on capital preservation, income to cover lifestyle and medical expenses. So that's the thing. As an investor life cycle, and this is very generalized, but what you'll find is most people, when they're younger in their 20s and 30s, they're just trying to accumulate as many properties as possible. You want to focus on capital growth. You want to build that nest egg. Then as you start to hit your middle age, you want to sort of consolidate a bit. And then obviously as you hit your retirement age, you want to basically focus mainly on yield. Capital growth probably isn't as important. And you want to preserve what assets you do have and obviously be able to take up as much income as possible.
It's interesting times. Guys and girls, for a landlord. Now, having said all that we've said today, we've spoken about lots of things. We've spoken about the disparity of interest rates. We spoke about you can't, as of yesterday, as of this weekend, you can't auction a rental property, but you can sell. You can auction a sales property in residential. Weird. And we're talking about what happened to landlords, commercial landlords and resi landlords through COVID, getting hammered and having to carry rent. It's been a tough time for a landlord, but I do have to say, I think for me that's the perfect time to get into the marketplace.
You see it with all the big investors. Anyone says when everyone else zigs, you zag. When everyone else goes left, you go right. If no one else wants to buy an investment at the moment, I think now is the perfect time to buy an investment.
It is counterintuitive, and at the end of the day, if that market has corrected 20% in some of our suburbs on the northern beaches, that's a 20% less mortgage that you're going to take on for 30 years. That's a good time to buy an investment property.
Buy and hold. Stick out the tough times and you get paid off in the good times.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, the market needs the investor. We need affordable housing. We can't afford to have a lack of rental properties in the rental market, because it makes rents go up exorbitantly.
No one wins.
We don't want that for tenants.
Correct. No one wins. If investors completely exit the market, absolutely no one wins from it. You're 1 in 6 Aussies that are using an investment property to build a nest egg. They don't win from it. Your tenants that need somewhere to live, that need to rent a property, that don't want to buy a property, can't afford to buy a property, you don't win from it. It needs to be a healthy balance for both sides.
And on that, thank you, Michael Sillage.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
See you. Have a great day.